Kay Price, welcome and thank you so much for giving up your time today. Perhaps we could start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey, how you got where you are today.
Okay, so thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to today's session. So I've been a financial planner now for about 24 years, I think. So I kind of left school at 16, wanted to work, so went into the financial services industry really early on. And in 2018, after being employed for 19 years, I set up my own practice, KP Financial Wellbeing. So I've been running a business now for about 5 years. Love the fact that it's mine, and I have wonderful staff that help me run this machine. I love being involved in the local communities. I love being involved in things like this and just being able to help support people, I suppose, with their financial well-being, really.
Obviously, today we're talking about women who are in or have been in an abusive relationship, and clearly the circumstances are different for them. Could you outline some of the areas where it's different from the advice you might give to other clients?
So obviously there's a little bit more of, I suppose, a delicate approach, a confidential approach, and just allowing anybody that's in that situation to be able to come to me and ask questions. Um, as a financial planner, I help a wide range of different people. A lot of my clients that I look after are actually doctors.
Right.
But during the pandemic, I became part of what's called the Advising Women Committee at St James's Place. And I'm really passionate about supporting women with their financial journeys and making sure they've got security now and in the future for their finances. So part of that is about not just helping women who have money, but it's also helping women that might need support to get to where they want to be. So to change their lives, to become empowered to make changes. So obviously it's slightly different for somebody that might be in a relationship where they have got economic abuse or financial abuse, or they're feeling like they're trapped in a situation that they can't get out of. So there's lots and lots of different support and different areas that we can talk about and support, and not just me as a financial planner. It's a network of people that they need support with, and it's as a financial planner, I do a lot of networking, and I go to a lot of networking groups. I've made a lot of professional connections. Now I run my own business, and that helps you with supporting people who need your help in those scenarios. I've actually recently helped a client through this situation itself.
You used an expression a moment or two ago, which was helping women who have money. How does that translate to helping women who have no money? I mean, it stands to reason that probably in some circumstances they start off with very little. They're trying to get their financial independence back. And I think you often speak about goals as well. And I guess the goal of many people will be to one day plan and to have money. But sometimes in these terrible times we live in, the goal is to be able to heat my home and eat next week.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with in terms of financial well-being, there are 5 pillars of financial well-being. And one of those pillars is actually about being able to budget properly and and
Right.
and and work out how much you can spend, and try to obviously for some people in this situation, they might need the local council that they live in to help them with the emergency money that you can get. So there is an opportunity if you're in a crisis, that you can actually apply for emergency money support from your local council. And it's knowing as a professional, it's knowing where you can turn to and what support you can help with your clients. So being a financial planner is about being discreet, it's about being confidential, it's about being supportive, it's about being non-judgmental, and it's about being there for somebody to talk to. And once that woman has made that contact with you, Obviously, it's got to be safe for them to do so if they're in a relationship that's abusive. So there's also lots of hints and tips that you can share with them. So being able to get copies of important documents and things like that, that's
Right.
really important to understand. If you can't take documents when you leave, like your passport or your birth certificate or your national insurance number, take photographs on your phone if you have one, so that when you want to leave that relationship, you've got access to important information about yourself. Because obviously there's lots of different signs, isn't there, of financial abuse that I'm sure these women are aware of, like, not being able to pay your bills, because somebody's keeping money back and not allowing you access to your bank account. So a way in which we can try and change that is to try and have your own bank account. It's really important as a woman that you don't have all of your accounts in a joint name, that you do have that not secret account, but you have access to a bank account that nobody maybe knows about, that's just got a little bit of something to one side that will help you make that move if you're ready to do so. And obviously, people who are victims of financial abuse are often scrutinized, aren't they, for spending their money. What are you spending your money on? Hiding money from them, controlling the access that you get to that money. A lot of times it's rocking up debt in your name.
Yeah.
So the abuser is taking out loans and overdrafts in your name, making you sign for documents that you don't want to. So there is support there as well. So it's knowing who to turn to in terms of who can help. So lots of banks have really good procedures for this in place for women. So with victims of domestic financial abuse, can go to their bank and tell them that this is happening to them, and they have really good procedures in place. If they know who they bank with and they want to go in, they can help them really, really, really well. And in terms of doing that, and you can Google that, and it will tell you which banks have got what procedures in place, if you like. Lots of different places that you can turn to for guidance as well online, if these females would prefer to speak to somebody anonymously, because obviously that sometimes helps be more open about your situation. But the one thing I would say is to not be ashamed of the situation you find yourself in. It's not a shameful situation, is it? Because it's through no fault of your own that you may have been told you not to work, you can't work, you need to stay at home with the children, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's very coercive behaviour, isn't it? So yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, but we're here, and I'm here to support anybody that feels like they're in that situation and they can't get out of it.
You mentioned a whole host of things there, which lie at the heart of financial abuse, like if you need a document, where is it? How can I get a copy of it? Why am I being asked to sign this? Why am I taking on this debt? Can I open a bank account in my own name? Will my abusive partner know? I mean, these are things which are very, very difficult. Before you can even talk about well-being, you've got to have all these things sorted out. And you talked about places that they can go. Do they get the kind of advice that address these issues if they phone a number or they email somebody?
I made a list last night of all the different places that we go to. So bank staff obviously do have procedures. Confidentiality is key here. And one of the pieces of advice I give is have a separate address because often abusers will cut you off from your family, your friends, social media, so you can't necessarily do that. But there may be a secure address that you can use, a friend, a family member. So when you're thinking about leaving or you're preparing to leave, then anything that you try to set up needs to go to this second address so that your abuser doesn't know that you're doing these things. It is very difficult, and you can only do these things if it's safe for you to do so. Obviously, they don't always come hand in hand, do the domestic abuse and financial abuse don't always come hand in hand, but often there is a line that crosses there. So my job with financial well-being is it's about how it makes you feel. It's about feeling secure now and secure for your future. But feeling secure now isn't about having money in the bank. It isn't about having plans for your retirement. It isn't about having all of those different things in place. It's about being able to live in the here and now today. What can I do today to try and get out of this situation? If I give my friend as an example, my client and my friend actually, when she came to me and told me she was in this situation, some of the things that she told me that were happening to her, I got her in touch with the local food bank, Urban Outreach, so she could get food parcels to feed her children, because basically her bank accounts were emptied. There was no money left in the bank. She didn't work because her partner worked. So, I said, you need to ring your bank. You need to tell them that this has happened. You need to ring your mortgage provider. You need to explain what's happened. You need to ask for an extension to your mortgage, a payment break, anything that you can do that's going to not affect your credit rating going forward. So I think allowing yourself to sort of close in about the situation isn't going to help you in the long run. You've got to kind of think, right, well, if I don't do this, if I don't make the payments on things, or if I can't ask the bank for an extension on a loan payment that's in my name, or the mortgage that might be in joint names, but obviously nobody's going to pay the bills. It's making those phone calls and knowing. And I also got her in touch with a family law solicitor to then look into whether she was entitled to legal aid. So there's a lot of different steps to supporting that female in that early stages of coming out of that kind of a relationship.
And in your experience, when they do contact their bank or their mortgage provider, do they get a sympathetic response?
Yes, usually. Yeah. If as long as they're honest about the situation that they find themselves in. I think in the current cost of living crisis, a lot of people who aren't having, financial abuse are struggling with money, and having to ask for, extensions on mortgages, extending the term or reducing the payments, having a payment holiday. I think as long as you've previously always paid your bills and there's no issues with that, then there should be, like I've said, procedures in place with each bank to cover the whole financial abuse situation that allows somebody to keep a roof over theirs and their children's head if they remain in the home. Obviously, if you have to leave or you have to flee a home, or you feel it's safe to do so, then you would want to then really be in touch with the local charities that look after people who have done that. So you've got Fort Alice, you've got Endeavour, you've got lots of people like that in Bolton that will support and guide. Usually the police are involved at that point, so the police will help support the victim and help them understand what they're going through. But yeah, I mean, I've just got an open door policy. People want to talk to me, and if I can, in terms of what I do, I'm not at this point in a person's life. It's not about me going in there recommending any kind of financial products to them or any kind of business. It's about, right, what do we need to put in place to support you to get you out of this situation and into a place. Now, my friend's now started her job. She's got a job. I gave a reference to her employer. So she's now working. She's earning money. She's paying her bills. She no longer needs the food bank. And the time that took and the difference in her now between when she first came to me and where she is now is enormous. And really, I've only played a small part in putting her in touch with all the right people. But when she wants to then come to me and go, right, now I need to think about mine and my children's future. I need to think about my future. Because women who have been financially abused will often be not in a job because they've been kept at home. So they'll not have a pension. They'll not have savings of their own. They'll not have things for their financial future and their security. We kind of need to start at the beginning and go, right, so what do we need to do? Where do we want to see, where do we want to go? And that's how we kind of do it, step by step, baby steps.
Well, I think you do more than play a small part in what you do when you advise, because if they don't get that advice, they're kind of stuck. They're prisoners in a world they don't understand. And you said earlier that well-being is really about now. They need to feel okay about money and where they are now, rather than thinking about what they can do in the future. Although I assume the future will play a part in that in terms of setting goals. Is,
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course.
is there a huge difference between women who've been abused who are in a job and women who've been abused who've been denied maybe by their abusive partner working at all, so that they're actually not in employment, they had no means of making money? Is there a huge difference in terms of the advice you can give them?
Um, I'm not sure there's a huge difference. I think that the financial abuse part of it is the same. You know, whether you are working or you're not working, because you might be going out to work, but not actually having control of that money, because that money is either going into a joint account, so there you're not you know you're not seeing it, or you're being scrutinized for how you spend that money, or being accused of not budgeting properly and overspending. And you know it's that comes down to the abuser and the control, really. There's just different things that people will have if they're in work and if they're not. So somebody in work might have employment rights. So, you know, they might have the right to have time off sick and get paid leave. They might have protection through their benefits, like death in service with their employer. They might have a workplace pension, whereas the victim that's not worked won't necessarily have all those benefits in the background. But I wouldn't think about that at an early stage. That would be something we would build on and support that person with as time passes.
Right.
Um, it's about getting away from the abuser. That's the most important, and you know, first and foremost, it's being able to get away, having somewhere safe to live, being able to put food on your table, being able to go to the right people for support. And there's lots and lots of different milestones, if you like, that you could call them in life, that you might want to assess. I actually downloaded. I'm just gonna. I hope you don't mind me just looking off camera for a second.
That's okay.
I downloaded, and I'm happy to email it to you, Ray. But I downloaded a document last night. It's called Controlling Your Financial Future, 6 Moments
Okay.
That Matter for Girls and Women. It's a fantastic document. It's a
Brilliant.
guide. It's free to look at, and it's wonderful. So I'll share that with you, and we can share that with um, whoever wants a copy of that after they've watched the recording.
I asked you what kind of response women in abusive situations might get if they contacted their mortgage provider, their banker, or whoever, and you responded positively. I get the feeling that it hasn't always been so, and maybe it's got better over the last couple of years or so, which is fantastic. But I know that it's not perfect.
No.
What in and also we've got the council, government bodies. There are lots of
Yeah.
I've seen lots of lists of things, pieces of advice, places people in abusive relationships can go to. So it looks like, wow, that's great. There's lots of help available. In many cases, when we've interviewed victims of abuse, they haven't got the responses that they wanted, and we won't get involved in other things to do with police, etc. They sometimes get great responses, sometimes not. And in many ways, whilst we're talking about financial well-being, you have to kind of protect yourself. You have to be safe at the centre of all this. In your view, because you seem to know so much about this, what other things could be done by any of the people I've mentioned, banks, financial institutions, councils, government? What's the best thing that can be done to actually help? What could we change? What could be done better?
I mean, working collaboratively probably would work better. People all on the same page, so not lots of people trying to do something for somebody without communicating. So that would be a great thing, that people actually spoke to one another. Um, there are lots and lots of different. This is the problem, I think. There's lots and lots of different support available. Lots of different companies offering free support, free guidance, free this, free that. And I don't know, maybe if there was some kind of policy in place that, you know, these are the things that somebody coming out of financial abuse should be entitled to, or could, you know, whether that's, I don't know, I can't, going into a home and fleeing and getting home for the first time and maybe getting, the first 3 months rent paid for by the government or by someone to say, get yourself on your feet. Perhaps some online training or something about, things like budgeting your money better. I mean, we do that. And I speak to my women about budgeting money. We do a budget planner and we talk about what's coming in, what needs to go out. And obviously, if they've been coerced and not been in control of the money, it might be something that they're not very good at. So it just needs a little bit of kind of coaching around how to do that. A lot of it's to do with emotions as well. And there'll be a lot of emotional attachment to what's happened. So making sure there's access to counselling for people that have been, victims and places they can go to talk about that. So I'm sure there's lots of those kind of places locally that happens. But in terms of changing what we do, just being absolutely understanding of this situation for the people that it happens to and believing that it happens to people, because it's massive, isn't it? It happens all of the time.
Absolutely. One of the ways of women in abusive situations becoming financially independent is to find employment if they're not already in employment. And that's a different situation for them where there's regular money coming in. It will certainly make their lives easier, but it might not be perfect. Is advice then quite important in terms of what they do with the money when they receive it, their understanding of taxation, their understanding of things like pensions? Does that come into at that stage?
Yeah, so that's all around financial education then, which we do financial education in the workplace and we do financial education in schools. So it would be, for me, I would happily speak to somebody about, understanding this is what you're going to get paid, but some of it's going to go out on tax, some of it's going to go out on national insurance. You need to join your workplace pension because if you don't, you're not going to have money in the future and your workplace will be contributing. So it's free money essentially to your pension pot for the future. If people have been in previous employment before that relationship, we can start to look at if there's pensions left elsewhere that they've forgotten about and try and sort of pull them together and see what other things they've got in place from historical employment records, things like that. So there's lots of different places we can do to help people find old pensions and old workplace pensions. All I would say is it's never ever too late to start afresh and to start planning your future. It's never too late. It doesn't matter when. You've just got to think you've left a terrible situation to be positive from now going forward. And that's what's really, important to understand.
Right. And it sounds like that might be at the heart of creating financial well-being when they start to feel positive.
Absolutely. It's all about a feeling. Yeah, it's about that feeling. The financial well-being is about taking away that anxiety that money can cause people. So financial anxiety is a real thing. So if I can do my small part in taking away some of that financial anxiety and worry and burden, and one of the things I think I'm good at is I'm very approachable and I'll talk to people and I'll say, listen, just chat to me about whatever. If I can help you, I'll help you. If I can put you in touch with the right people, I'll put you in touch with the right people. I don't mind being involved in anybody's situation if I feel I can help in some way, So anybody can chat to me if they've got a problem about any part of their financial well-being. If it's not good, then come and talk to me. I often get people going, you won't want me as a client because I've got no money. I'm like, well, you've got to start somewhere. People didn't make their money. People started with nothing and they've made their money. So, and it's not about being rich either. It's not about being wealthy. It's about being comfortable. It's about being happy. And it's about having that feeling of, you can pay your bills and you can put food on the table and you can save a little every month to fund something for the future. Having an emergency fund, that's really important. Having money in the background for those horrible things that might happen every now and again. And a really important point I wanted to make sure anyone that is listening as well is if and when you manage to leave an abusive relationship, remember to change all of your passwords. So passwords for the bank, passwords for your iCloud, passwords for your phone. the Ring doorbell, any, change them, because it's easily something you forget not to do.
Yeah.
Contact your mobile phone provider, change the name of your contract, all of those things. Just having a little checklist, I would say, is what needs to be put in place. A checklist that a woman can download from the internet, and it tells them exactly what step by step, the little things that they need to do. Perhaps that's something that we should think of doing together, and
Yeah.
put some kind of checklist together that we can share with people when that happens, so they know what they should be looking to do.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah,
Um, uh, you obviously show fantastic empathy to the people you talk to. Is coming out in droves in this conversation. But one of the things you said was, if they come to you and say, "You wouldn't be interested in me, I have no money," and then you reply in the way that you do, which is so important. And I think because you show empathy, they can develop that relationship of trust with you, of
absolutely.
what you're saying. But often in these situations, being able to speak to other people, other women in similar situations to them helps. So, is there a forum they could go to? Are there established fora where they can share their situation with others? Because sometimes it helps to know that, okay, the way I'm thinking, the advice I've got is exactly what you're thinking, and the advice you've got as well. And they get some kind of reassurance from that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't run a forum or anything like that for women, and I don't refer them to any particular forums because it's a personal choice to do that. I just tell them which charities they can contact online, which local charities. I'll often refer them to charities in Bolton, because I think it's about supporting the women you know in the area that I work in. Obviously, I get clients from different places. So if they come to me, if I don't know where they need to go, I will do that research for them. I'll find out where they need to go, who can help them locally, the different places they can go to. Um, but it's not a bad idea to put some kind of forum or some kind of quarterly meeting together that people can come to, and talk to us about it.
Right. Am I right in assuming that sign on the wall behind you has the word well-being? Yes, it does. Okay. So that's is that the name of your organization?
Yeah, KP Financial Wellbeing. KP, obviously my initials, and then Financial Wellbeing. When I first joined St James's Place, my company name was actually KP Wealth Management, and literally within 12 months, I was like, this doesn't sit right with me. This is not the name for my business. This is not what I'm about. I'm not about. Don't get me wrong, I have clients who have money invested and I look after that for them. But underlying in everything I do, it's about a feeling of security and making people feel better about themselves, their money, and their futures.
From everything you've said so far in this interview, it's clear that a lot of what you do is what we might consider pro bono. Although, indeed, some of these clients might turn out to be um, uh, good in terms of the better they get financially, there may be a benefit for you. But it sounds like you've gone into this. I mean, the very name of your organisation
Yeah.
in a way to help other people, which is magnificent. Should not other organisations which are government funded be doing this? Shouldn't the government be paying you to do some of the work you're doing?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, so I am regulated in terms of the financial products that I recommend. But like you say, in terms of what I do in talking to people and guiding people and supporting them and stuff like that, yeah, that's just because that's the kind of person that I am. I'm a helpful person. And if I can help somebody get somewhere or do something better, I will. And like you say, I'll I have lots of clients, and I have clients who come off the back of other clients and they recommend me to their colleagues and their friends, and it kind of grows like that. And there are, often women who come to me and say, I've no money, I'm rubbish with budgeting, I don't know where all my money goes every month, can you help me? And, one of my best testimonials is off a lady that I met a couple of years ago who now is completely in control of her money and her spending. And for me, that's, great enough reward for anything really, and I didn't do any business with her. I didn't get paid. There wasn't any transactions that took place, but she's referred me to some of her colleagues where I have done business with them. So yeah, you're right. It's a part of what I do. It's not everything that I do, but I'm happy to be involved in any of that kind of area where people need to come to me and go, help me out. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck.
Right. Well, it sounds like whatever's written in your business plan in terms of aims must include a lot of financial figures, but in terms of the personal satisfaction and the satisfaction of your staff that you get must be gigantic when you actually
Absolutely.
see the difference you make. In your view, have you, for instance, ever come across anyone where you couldn't improve their situation, or it was more difficult than others in terms of them feeling better? Because right at the beginning of this interview, you talked about it's about the here and now rather than just being better in the future. Well-being means you've got to feel better now.
I don't think I've ever had I don't think I've ever been able to not be able to help somebody. I've had plenty of people cry. I've had plenty of meetings where people have cried, and I've said, "Listen, you can cry. You're better to cry because if you cry, it gets it open and out there. Don't hold back the feelings that you've got." Um, and often it'll make me cry because I'm quite an emotional person, and I feel that empathy with that person, and I will kind of be on their page. But then I think that's what makes working with people easy, because financial planners have got, we've got a reputation, haven't we, being stiff and boring and, suited and booted and all of that. But females, we're trying to change the world in financial planning in a very male dominated industry. And there's not that many of us really. So if you're going to make a difference, you need to make a difference in lots of different places, as well as doing your day job, which is looking after your clients that you look after. But part of St James's Place's ethos is we have our own charitable foundation, so we do a lot of charity work. We all give to that foundation within work. Part of the thing that we do, we all get volunteer days that we can go and do. We do a lot of volunteering and a lot of corporate responsibility, so get involved in local charities, all of that kind of stuff. So there's lots and lots of things. So doing this and helping victims of financial abuse is just part of my all-roundedness, I would say.
Okay, well, thank you. Kaye, I think you're an amazing person. I think you've created an amazing organization. I just wish there were more people like you out there. So thank you very much for your time doing this interview, but thank you so much for doing what you do.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ray.
It's our great pleasure.